Today, I want to introduce you to the insanely creative minds behind Team Bubbly, Frank Siringo and Andres Rojas, who started their Manhattan-based full-service production agency more than 12 years ago and have worked with brands like Nike, Amazon, Guinness, PayPal, and Levi's. They've also had A-list celebs on set like Kris Jenner, Pete Davidson, Neil Patrick Harris, and of course, my favorite, Cookie Monster. Yes, that's right. I said Cookie Monster. We're so honored to have Frank and Andres here with us today from their HQ in New York City. Frank, Andres, how are you doing?
Hey, Mike. How's it going? Thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, we're doing good, man. Grateful to be here.
You're listening to The Curious Creative with your host and video expert, Mike Kepka. I didn't go totally into your history because I wanted you guys to tell it first person. Can you tell me a little bit about how long you've been together and how the whole company got started?
Frank and I have been working together as creative and producing partners for well over 15 years. We actually met at a bar. And I was creating a music documentary at the time. So basically profiling bands, up-and-coming bands. And at the time, the partner that I had was moving to LA, and I was just happened to meet someone who I was producing and editing, but I didn't shoot, so I needed a DP. And Frank saw some of the work that I had posted on Facebook when people were on Facebook, and then they asked to help. And we met up at a bar, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it was probably about 3 years of like side hustly things. So I was still freelancing as a cinematographer and editor, and Andres was producing at a mom and pop shop here in New York, who were really great mentors to us. And so it was like a lot of side hustly things. We made a commercial for a friend's granola company. We made a fashion film for a friend's fashion collection for New York Fashion Week, some music videos. And then a friend of mine, Gabe, he was doing sales for Guitar Magazine. He saw the documentary series that Andres was talking about that we were working on. And we got a pitch meeting with a really big guitar manufacturer, like the biggest guitar manufacturer. And we pitched them 3 ideas based on profiling bands that played their guitars and some other like kind of fun video campaigns. And they said they didn't have enough budget for us that quarter, and to circle back. And then we saw that they stole all 3 of our ideas and posted them on their YouTube channel.
Oh no! What do you do?
Well, I think you have 2 options in that moment. You could either get like really offended and kind of, upset about it, or you could use that as motivation to find somebody else that'll actually pay for your ideas or your execution, or both.
Yeah.
So we chose the latter, and that was probably about like 14 years ago. And then it took us about a year or 2 to kind of quit our solo work endeavors and take it really, really seriously.
So the moral of the story is, when you have good ideas and someone steals them, you should make lemonade. But start your own company, I guess, is what I think you told me in the intro, is that if your ideas were good enough to steal, somebody else should steal them, then you should do them yourself, right? Is that kind of
somebody will eventually pay for them, so.
And it's true. So take that unnamed guitar manufacturer.
They're still doing great, by the way.
I'm sure they're still doing great. So, and that was 12 or 13 years ago. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, I was 13 or 14.
Yeah,
maybe 15.
That was 15 years ago. But then
this is like a marriage story. It was like true love at first sight. You met at the bar. How important is it that you actually like the people you're working with? I imagine that's part of what's working for you.
Yeah, I think that's really huge for us. I think Frank and I really do like each other as partners, and as business partners and as friends. We don't always see eye to eye, but I think that when the going gets tough, we really stick by each other. And I think the people that work with us see the connection that we have, and that's why people like working with us as a team. Sometimes people can be a little put off by like the 2-headed creative monster. but we've managed to pull it off.
Do you guys ever hang out in the off time? Do your wives pal around? Or I know you have a couple of kids, and Frank, you have one on the way. Is that right?
Yeah, we went to the beach a couple weekends ago and hung together. And, you know, it's like Andres has 2 kids and we live 2 rivers apart. So it's not as easy to connect after work. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a really rich history of social engagements and fun outside of here. And it's something we try to do with our staff too, is like at least once a quarter, go to a baseball game, see a movie, like take the day off or an afternoon off work and actually have some fun together. But to your point, your question before, I think all that disseminates down, all of like the affinity for each other and the idea that like we're supposed to be having fun creating things. I think that people that work with us down to the PAs, so we just had a production that wrapped yesterday. And that's what we hear is like people really enjoy being on set with us. And we've heard it from clients and talent and crew. And it's something that means a lot to us. You know, it's not brain surgery. So nobody needs to have their panic attack.
Do you share a title, or do you give yourselves a different hat? Are you directors or creative directors?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that we kind of flip flop based on the project, you know, and what the need is. So yeah, it just it depends. But I mean, we're good partners because we both have different strengths, you know.
Sure.
So although we don't necessarily define those based on anything in particular.
So yeah, we're like exec producers, partners, and sometimes we get to direct the stuff we're working on, you know. But I think like the two-headed monster thing, actually, to play the angel's advocate, I think there's a lot of checks and balances that are built into 2 people as opposed to one. And I think that sometimes, you know, Andres will just needs my approval for something to back up what his brain was already thinking. And usually it's the opposite as well. So I think there's something really beautiful that comes out of that. You know, it's like being able to bounce ideas around and not just get lost in a single head is really beneficial, especially when productions are getting a little more grueling.
Let's talk a little more about business. Tell me, where's the bulk of your client base coming from now? And was that always the case? And where are we headed in the future?
Sure. I think we primarily work with agencies, so creative agencies or ad or marketing agencies, however you want to call it. So that's where we get most of our business. So that versus working direct to brand. So, you know, the agency will ping us to bring a project to life. Sometimes the agency and their creative team have an idea that's fully cooked. Sometimes they have a kernel of an idea that they need, you know, to help fleshing out. It kind of comes in all shapes and sizes. For us, we've really enjoyed that model. We do a little bit of direct to brand, and maybe that will kind of grow more for us in the future. But at the moment, the working with the agencies is.
Are there any advantages to one or the other, direct to brand or agency?
Yeah, it's really interesting, man, because we're gonna, I think, take a look at it later, but the Saucony campaign was direct to brands, and their entire team was so unbelievable. But there are benefits. I think that traditionally clients have really extreme asks, and the agency's role is sort of to kind of normalize those and bring them down to reality, and then ping you when it's kind of been level set a little bit more or based on time or budget or whatever. So, you know, there's definitely, it adds time, but you're doing less of that communication and talking off the ledge. So it's nice. Like the agency, we've been fortunate enough to work with some creative directors at some agencies that have like really trusted us and really given us opportunities that they know we're just going to knock out of the park, you know? So I don't know. It's just they're 2 different things.
Are the agencies sort of act as a buffer then? Is that like they're mostly client front and you guys get to be just the creative talent?
Yeah, it allows us to, you know, agencies usually have like account managers or client services that's managing those relationships, and we just get to focus on the work really, and that's what's really important to us. I mean, obviously, when we work direct to brand, we have to take those things on. And we feel like we've done that well. However, you know, if we had to pick a lane, the idea of just focusing on the work is probably what we would prefer.
Now, to be honest, the three of us know each other through working with Tim Jarvis and his video tracking team. I bought into their consulting services because I wanted to see if that would give me a stronger impact at the creative table, like coming in and actually telling brands what I think we should do to sort of build their strategy, which is, I guess, the opposite of the agency stuff you were talking about. But, you guys are clearly Jedi Knights when it comes to creative stuff. I mean, your stuff's amazing. Your website looks great. Maybe we could look at some of your stuff and you can just kind of talk, especially if Saucony was direct to brand. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about that process and how that'll differ for some others. So why don't you intro the first one? We'll take a look at it. And by the magic of post, we'll show everybody what we're looking at after the fact, right? So we'll queue up the Saucony piece, but what are we going to look at?
Yeah, we had a really great opportunity here. I had made a connection with somebody who just got hired as a new creative director at Saucony. We really had a really lovely conversation. It had nothing to do with work. We actually talked about black hardcore bands for a while. And we hit it off and he said, "Hey, I like your style." He said the most apt thing that I think anybody's ever said by looking at our site, which is, "I could tell that you guys are really good at making something beautiful when you don't have all the things that you need." Like, he understood what we were up against based on the pieces. And he said, "I'm going to hit you up when we have something to work on." And he did it. And we thought it was a really great opportunity to work with Miles Waring, who's a director on a roster, and give him his first swing at like a proper commercial and campaign. Miles is a feature film director. He's got a film called Bruiser on Hulu that's tremendously awesome, and had a small theater run, and it's definitely worth checking out. And yeah, we knew that Miles is like kind of a master of timing and kinetic energy, and we were like, I think that we could definitely like see this, like him taking this concept from the brand and really pushing it as far as we could. And it was just a really great experience. We shot for 2 days around New York City, and we did a big lift of a VFX lift, which was really different than what we've done. So we learned a lot about how to speak that language, how to communicate clearly. We learned a lot about render farms and all sorts of crazy things. So, historically, we've been really good at being able to move pretty quick, but VFX work is a whole different beast. So it was really amazing to kind of fuse those two worlds, a live action and the VFX, and come out of that not only feeling proud of the work that we did together and that Miles led, but just kind of learning a bit more about how to do that stuff. So it was really cool.
Cool. Let's take a look, and then we'll find some takeaways here.
Don't stop, get the work, don't stop, get the work, don't stop, get the work, don't stop, left, right, don't stop, get the work. Pose for the pick, my phone stay on lit, glide with the stride, I shoot and don't miss, sprint through your city, them blocks stay on bent, gotta lace them up nice and tight and then dip. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Left, right, left, right.
Nice. That was good. I cranked it up. The last time I watched it, I didn't get the full effect of the music, but I feel it. Do you have, what did the client think first? That's what I first want to know.
They loved it. I mean, it's been doing really well for them. They came back for like additional cuts to additional versioning. They put paid media behind it, which is always, that's always the testament of something that's working, is if the client is like, this is testing well, it's doing well, we want more of it. So
was it meant to be web-based, or is it gonna?
It was only meant to be web-based, and it's probably not going to go to broadcast because, they were pretty transparent that they didn't have a lot of money to put behind it. But but they are pushing it through. They are pushing it out on social media more.
So how did that conversation go, creatively speaking? Since this was direct to brand, did they say, we've got a shoe, what are we going to do? Or did they have art boards, or what was Where did you guys come in?
Yeah, they had a really fully cooked idea that we kind of helped shape and add to. You know, it was kind of like a really great kernel. We were able to help shape it a bit. And then once we started location scouting, we were like, oh, how about this laundromat would be great. I think we could build a nightclub in a black box studio. I think that we could find DJs and dancers and real fun.
Yeah.
Do it.
And we also helped develop the look of the VFX phone. You know, they wanted a certain look that we had to literally build from scratch. I mean, it had to feel like soap foam, but also move like gelatin, kind of. You know, the global creative director, Ian, who we worked with, he had a real vision for what he wanted it to look like, and we kind of helped shape that for him. So
yes, it's total like it's all physics. We used this really great dude that works in Houdini. So all those things are based on the physics of how foam would move in those scenarios. And you'd have to run all that before you could start to add textures or layers or any colors.
It's actually sand and honey.
Oh yeah,
that's the particle. That's what those movements are based on, and then you kind of start to build on that through Houdini. So yeah, it was a really fascinating process.
Super cool. Yeah, I got to work with really talented people on this one, which was great.
And what were your roles on set? Were you directing then an EP or?
We're EP. Yeah, and then Miles was the director.
Which part of a clip like that is you? Is the whole thing you guys, or is it like you? Can you look at the color and say that's you, or the running down the street, or can you define it like Team Bubbly? When I say, I mean, you definitely have a distinct style when I go to your website, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I think we've always pushed to do work that's fun and uplifting. I mean, and there's bubbles all over the fucking spot. So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely us. But yeah, I think just the whole piece is us because, you know, it's really positive, it's fun, and
it moves.
And it moves.
Yeah. I mean, it moves thanks to Miles, but it moves.
Yeah.
You know, I think the creative director at the brand really wanted something that continually gave off endorphin hits throughout the 30 seconds. And that was kind of something he kept bringing up. And it's like, how do we design? First of all, how do you fit 4 scenes in 30 seconds, you know, and still have enough time to like feel those sets? But yeah, those dopamine hits just kept going, you know? So I think for them, it was really successful. Like the brand was taking a pretty new direction. And this was a big part of those first steps. So we're really like honored to be able to not only take it, but like literally run with it.
Yeah, I think that was a big directive from the brand is that, and you know, we're really honored that we were able to help them kind of really push their aesthetic from their brand that's 120 years old, you know, so they're a very storied brand, but they felt like they were a little bit stuck in this more kind of running dad thing. So they really wanted to push the lifestyle young element of it. So that's what we helped them do.
Okay. Who wants to introduce the next one we're going to show? I do believe it has my favorite character in it.
Which one is that? Cookie
Monster.
Sweet. So this one came in and it was an interesting one. I know we touched on this before, that briefs come in all shapes and sizes and all abilities to add color to. They had worked, the agency had worked with Lactaid in the past and had worked with Cookie Monster in the past on these Lactaid spots. And they had new talent. It was during COVID time, and Sesame has really strict rules at the time about not traveling. So we had to come to Cookie Monster actually. So we designed the story idea was basically a cooking class or a cooking moment that happens between Cookie and his friend Tia. It was from the show Sister, if you remember back in the day.
Oh, right. Yes. She looked familiar, but a little older, right?
Yeah, and she's great. She does a lot of home cooking stuff and like a lot of great content. So yeah, basically they were trying to come up with some creative that could help shape or make this exchange more fun than just the two of them baking cookies. And we came up with the idea of like, what if the kitchen was an instrument? What if it like kind of just takes the right turn from them starting to make cookies, and all of a sudden they're banging on pots and pans and kind of jamming together. And the agency loved it, and they pitched it to the client, and the client loved it. And it was a really different process for us. Like, we actually had to have the music made in advance, and then we had to have them mime all of the actions, kind of like you would shoot a music video, of like a drummer in a music video. So it was like a sort of reverse process in that regard, but it was so much fun just to like we shot Tia first in LA, and then we flew over to Chicago to work with the Sesame team. And it was just a dream.
Cool. Let's let the audience take a look at it. And now I'm going to be looking for this instrument you're talking about. Let's see.
Hi, Cookie Monster. Ready to bake some cookies together?
Oh boy, me always ready for cookies.
Great. Before we start, let's pour ourselves a nice cold glass of milk. Mmm, delicious.
Me know something else delicious. Cookies.
Cookie, I really dig your taste in music.
Oh, thank you, Tia. Now let's dig in. Nom 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 nom. Nom nom nom.
Nice. I didn't even think about it just right now, but I'll bet you were hiding the puppeteer under the kitchen island, right? I mean, you have whoever's operating Cookie Monster. Is that?
Yeah,
It's two people.
it's 2 people.
Oh, well, see, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's somebody takes the head in one hand, and then there's a separate operator just for one hand.
Yeah. So Cookie has been being operated by the same guy since the not late
Like mid-90s.
mid to late 90s. Yeah. I mean, he's great.
And he voices him as well.
It's a 60-second spot, right? When you're like, how long does it take start to finish, that kind of thing? First meeting with the agency all the way to the end. You've gotten the sound engineer and everything done.
Yeah, probably good 3 to 4 months. I guess.
3 to 4 months, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's we do a lot of things that are like celebrity and a brand. So you need to get approvals from all those departments and the agency. But this is even more complicated because you have Sesame, Henson, Lactaid, Tia's people, agency, so it's like there's a lot more layers to it. So things just take longer.
Yeah.
So is this where the agency says we're going to use Cookie Monster and they take care of a lot of those logistics?
Not necessarily, not for some of the creative approvals. We had to work with them really closely. Henson and Henson and Sesame are a partnership, and Henson deals with anything physical with the puppets, but Sesame is all the IP. So there's a lot of red tape between what Cookie can do and what he can endorse, and what he can handle, like physically.
Yeah.
So
Props that are like made specifically for him. And
yeah,
all that stuff.
yeah.
But I mean, like having the star power of Cookie Monster that kind of helps make the spot, right? I mean, you wouldn't be able to do that with. I mean, you just kind of need that, right? And then also your actor from Sister. The two of those probably go hand in hand, I think, right? So
Yeah. I mean, they're sourcing the talent. They had a pretty good idea that they wanted to work with both of those people, or talents. I don't know.
do you know where this one ran and how it did with the audience? Or
Yeah, this one ran. This was for social, and it did really well. It was one of the best campaigns that Lactaid had at the time, for social, and it was really well received. I think that this was the last year that they had Sesame Street on contract for Lactaid. So I think that we really honored the relationship by creating this last one with him.
And it was just like a dream come true for us, like between takes. I think the guy's name was David who played Cookie.
Yeah.
There's a C stand that his head lays on before his hand goes in to like bring the puppet to life. But once his hand is in that, he doesn't speak as David anymore. He only speaks Cookie. So he'd say things like, "Are you going to direct me?" And it's like you turn into a little kid, but dude, you just turn into a little kid instantly. It's crazy how magical
that he was like making fun of us.
Yeah,
You call yourself a director? Yeah, it's like he was really good. It was really
it's incredible. Yeah, so there's so much magic to that whole IP, and I feel like any generation in the last like 5 or 6 has grown up with Sesame and like has a soft place in their heart for it.
I certainly did. That was like a babysitter for generations, I think.
100%, dude. Latchkey kids and Sesame.
You know, I think my kids may have had a slightly different experience, but certainly my generation was all about Sesame Street. All right, we've been talking for a while, guys, which is great. Time flies. I want to make sure that we get through this last one here, which I believe is Levi's. You could tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Levi's. This is a really special piece for us. It was a idea that we pitched to create a film with a really historic brand. It was basically when we created it, just when branded content started to be a thing. We wanted to create something that wasn't a hard hitting spot about a product, but more about the feeling that a product gives you. So, Frank and I, we wrote and directed it. And we felt that it really needed to capture this kind of nostalgia. It's a family story. So we thought that the only way to really do that was to capture it on film. So we shot
real film. Okay, great.
Yeah, we shot it on 35 millimeter, and which we had never done together before. I've shot on film, but it was like in college. And it was really a special experience.
Yeah, we had a DP friend that was really interested in shooting something on film, had the stock, and was trying to find the right project. And we sent him a script, and he loved it. And his name's Sam Wood, and he's somebody that's really worked with us a lot over the years. And we're really proud of this piece. This is actually filmed in the house that I grew up in out of Long Island right before my old man sold it. So it was also like a personal postcard and snapshot of the space, which was great.
Well, let's take a look at it, and let's analyze after here.
You ready?
Yeah, I just gotta do one last thing. Stay out of my room while I'm gone, nerd. If you're reading this, and I know you are, you didn't stay out of my room. I know you wanted my 501s for a while, and I don't blame you. They're awesome. Take care of them, and they'll take care of you.
Well, it's an even better story knowing the personal connection to the house, Frank. And the how do you get something to look with like it has that film experience? You shoot it on film.
Yeah,
it just looks. Did you come to the agency and say we're going to do this on film and we're going to need more money, or did you just kind of add that to your list of wants? Or
I think we just said this. It just it was part of the concept. It was like if we really wanted to communicate what we needed to communicate, it had to be shot on film. I mean, we could have done it on digital and tried to like push in color and filter it, but you just don't feel it the same way. It's so hard to explain, so.
And that stuff has gotten better for what it's worth. Like the new Alexa has different grains that you can load into it and stuff, but it's not the same, man. I remember in color for this project, there's a shot when she first comes in the doorway and then down the dark hall, and just seeing how much information was in the highlights, like nothing was blown out. It was unbelievable to actually watch how much more information you have to play with in post.
There's even more information than with 15 stops or whatever we're getting on the digital stuff.
Yeah, dude, it's not even comparable. That's still to this point. I'll never forget that.
I think there's also magic in the idea that you have to make these decisions, like the limitations really kind of push the creativity. Because, when you shoot on digital, like you could keep shooting, but on film, like it's really expensive. It's still expensive to this day, even though more and more people are using it. And back then, that spot's already 6 or 7 years old. Yeah, I mean, nobody was shooting wet stuff on film,
let alone 30 shots.
Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah,
well, I've got a brand new goal for 2025. This is excellent. Thanks for pushing the envelope, team. This is, this one really resonates to me. Unlike the other two, which seemed like they were sort of these concise, flashy concepts, this one was a bit more of a cinematic storytelling effort. And coming from my journalism background, it seems like I'm always striving to kind of get this authenticity. And you pulled that off really well. I mean, I think you could screw the whole thing up by bringing a bad hair and makeup person, right? I mean, you had sort of like a really natural vibe to all of that and everything. So how did that play? That you said that was social or web-based, right?
Yeah, it played pretty well. I mean, I think it's a pretty nuanced story. I think you take a risk when you try to make something subtle for commercial work,
it's definitely more challenging.
Yeah.
It being big and bold and flashy,
Yeah. But I think everybody involved was really stoked on it. So it's still, one of our favorite pieces. And it speaks to lots of what Frank and I care about, which is family and connection.
And there's just a big level of nostalgia in it.
Yeah.
It really helps lean into that feeling, But it's funny how your memory works. Yeah, I feel like you can look backwards, and especially if you're our age, like there's VHS and there's film and there's these other mediums that kind of feel more of the time than anything digital. So it's nice to get reminded of that.
Yeah. And as directors, we at the time we were working a lot with kids as well. So working with these two young actors was like a real pleasure. And it tests you as a director. I mean, we just happened to be able to work with these two kids that were excellent.
They were really good.
Yeah, they're really good. But the whole thing about working with kids and pets is like, it's very true.
It's true. And you could add phone to that list.
Now we've had show and tell, guys. I want to talk about you've seen the stuff. What is the recipe for making one of these pieces engaging? I mean, there's all these things that come together, but I mean, I guess the agencies are hiring you to actually make it a reality, right? And how do you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think
take paper or concept and turn that into something that actually hits, right?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think the challenge is like more often than not, creative directors of agencies they really know these brands and they really know their clients well, and they know what they can kind of get them excited about, conceptually. So I think in most cases, the creative's already in a really good place, or the idea's in a good place. But it's really about shaping it.
It's in a good place from a really big picture from 60,000 feet.
Yeah.
I think what we bring to the table is the details. Is all the details is what really makes this stuff shine. Sure, the concept. I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the overall concept. But that there's so much more that goes into it.
Totally. And it's creative stuff, and it's logistics stuff, and it's everybody has to work with different levels of budgets and time, and you just have to figure it all out. And I think that we care about all those little micro decisions enough that you end up feeling it on the back end of a finished feed.
I mean, I would think that so all of these pieces feel like Team Bubbly. Like, I think that it would be easy for someone who was less experienced or to be sort of intimidated by all the people at play. And in the moment, you're like, yeah, it's good enough. But you still have to make sure that you've got what you want, right? You're wrestling with the clients and the agency. And then if you've got fancy talent on set, at some point you have to block all that out and remember to stay true to what your vision is, or how do you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a good question. I think we've always seen ourselves as guides on set and in the creative process. You know, we're just guiding everybody to the X on the map. You know, and when you're guiding someone, it's like, what do you need to do to kind of keep them coming with you? You know, like, you have to be really in tune with yourself and how to communicate with people. And that's something that Frank and I have to learn the hard way over the years, but because we've become pretty good at it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've always we've run very open sets too. So that means that if a PA has a really great idea of a B-roll shot, we're actually gonna stop and listen if there's a moment, you know. And I think that the no I in team is really important. Like, if everybody on set understands that, like, you leave your ego at the door. Like, we're here to make the best thing that we can together. And if you give people that are more talented than you their specific roles, like a cinematographer or a sound mixer or whatever, if you give them the runway, often, if you chose the right person to bring onto the project, it'll far exceed what your initial expectations were for it. So it's really about giving people chances to shine and to get excited about the things that you're bringing them on for. And I feel like that's been a really great lesson as we've gotten older and directed more. Is like, you know, let people run with the thing that they put their own 10,000 hours into that role. So, you know, like, you could present what the issues are or what you'd like, but like, let them take it the way they want to take it. Good things always come out of those exercises and that freedom.
Guys, what advice do you have for one or two person production teams who are not as established as you guys are? They look at your stuff, they go, "Oh my God, they've made it. I'm never going to get there." What's your advice? What's your advice to them?
I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's just keep trying. I mean, keep at it. You know, I think I've always believed in the talent and drive of this gentleman sitting next to me. So it's definitely easier if you have someone to be like, "Oh fuck, we lost that bid, man. Like, that sucks. Let's," you know, than doing it by yourself probably. But yeah, I mean, we did everything in our power to make this work. You know, we both worked multiple jobs at a time and really made big sacrifices. Our families have made big sacrifices for us to get where we are. So I think never give up. Oh, as cliche as it sounds, and understand that in order to do it, you do need a good support system. I think, you know, you definitely need people around you that also believe in what you want to do, and hopefully have that the support that we've had over the years.
Yeah, and I think, like, I don't know, the more I do this, the more I understand that made it is something that's like slightly out of reach always. And I think that, like, all those micro steps, when you get up a level, you're like, oh, I have like a new set of challenges and a new set of inconveniences or whatever. And I think that I hope that doesn't ever end, because I think once you've made a perfect film that you feel like you couldn't have done anything better, you should just quit and go home. Like, it's never going to get any better than that. So
Yeah, that was my next question, was going to be, how do you know when you've made it, assuming you haven't plateaued now, right? I mean, do you have what's your next set of goals? Are we going to do it on a different film or 3D? We're doing 3D immersive. What's going on?
Yeah, for us, we always want to do like more kind of high concept, interesting work. We're obviously really happy with the work that we've done so far, but it's not enough for us. We want to, you know, keep working with bigger celebrities and, you know, keep trying to, you know, touch audiences with the type of stuff that we're doing. You know, I mean, you know, I think luckily what's happened over the years, and we believe this commercial work is really, really elevated. It's really become, everybody's like excited to watch the Super Bowl commercials more than the actual Super Bowl, you know? And I think that says something about the industry. Obviously, it's part of it sucks, but but I think we're living in like the golden age of advertising.
Like motion advertising.
Yeah, motion
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we really feel fortunate to be part of it, in our little section of it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that gets me exciting. Golden age of advertising that seems like we're in the right place then, right? Instead of
I think so, man. The thing is this.
There's just more screens.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 15 years, and the smartphone fits into that timeline. And like, how much has changed in the way we consume, the way media is delivered, the way media is captured, like all those things we saw the writing on the wall. Like brands are all going to need to participate. They're all going to have video. When we walk into a room and you meet somebody at a party, like anybody that's a small business owner or works for an agency or a big corporation, like those could be your clients. Like you could tell stories for literally anybody. And I think even 10 years ago, that wasn't something that was even considered. If you weren't a Budweiser or a Sony or an Apple, like you weren't making commercials. If you weren't making commercials, then nobody was really seeing your shit outside of public access ads or the back of print magazines, So everybody has to throw their hat in the ring now.
So how do we compete with like what in some cases appears to be lower budgets? Like everybody has a screen, everybody needs video, everybody has a camera in their pocket. So how do people like us pitch this really high quality stuff that will always cost money because of the way we're doing it, right? Like what?
A really good question. I don't know if I have the answer for that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
we're all struggling with, because there's a lot of interns and nephews out there that can do some social media stuff, and we're not exactly trying to do that. But every single piece of content we looked at yours today was meant for the web or social.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if we have the answer to that. I mean,
yeah. I don't know if I have the answer to that. I know that if an agency and a brand is spending money on top talent, that like we're a small part of that spend, but it's really high on their level of importance to get out into the world because of who's involved. Like often these like A-list talents that are part of these social things are really being used for their distribution system. Like Neil Patrick Harris has millions of followers. Like all these people, all this talent have like really, really big presence. So they're kind of hiring them to talk to their audience, in some level. So it's really just about taking those opportunities and trying to deliver something that feels as good as it can based on time and budget. And to be quite honest with you, budget's always a concern. It doesn't matter what scale you're at.
Yeah.
So especially nowadays, it's like, to your point, there's a kid out there with the DSLR that will do it for next to nothing. Sometimes you have to say, and it's a hard decision to make, but like, let me know how that goes. And if you need help in 6 months, I'm here. And that's not the easiest thing to do or say, because you're leaving money on the table. You're leaving some creativity on the table.
Yeah.
But sometimes clients or agencies or brands need to like have that experience to understand what your value is and what you bring to the table. So I think you're always going to be up against that, but like the cream will always rise to the top. And if somebody's investing in a spot for a client, like why not do it the best way possible if you're already spending a ton of money? You know what I mean?
Well, there you have it, guys. We got to make sure that we're the cream rising to the top. Frank and Andres, thank you so much for being on my show. Curious creatives out there, remember to subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Frank.